Colonel Wu Jin was drinking coffee in his office when the first reports came in. The coffee cup fell from his hands and broke on the floor as he listened to the impossible words coming through his radio. "Sir, we have unknown aircraft over Seoul. They're not responding to any communications. They don't match any known designs." Wu Jin had spent 20 years in the South Korean military. He had trained for war with other human nations, for terrorists, for natural disasters, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "Show me," he said into his radio. The video feed from the city showed ships in the sky unlike anything humans had ever built. They moved without making sound. They had no wings, no engines that anyone could see, and they were big enough to carry hundreds of soldiers. Within an hour, similar reports came from cities around the world: New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. Alien ships appearing in the sky above humanity's greatest cities. The world watched in shock and fear as the ships landed in empty areas outside each city. Dr. Min-seo Park was in her laboratory when the news reached her. She was a xenobiologist, a scientist who studied the possibility of life on other worlds. She had spent her career hoping that humanity would one day meet beings from other planets. Now that it was happening, she was terrified. The first alien soldiers who came out of the ships looked like humans in many ways, but they were taller, stronger, and their skin was blue-green. They carried weapons that glowed with energy. When they fired these weapons at trees and rocks, the target simply disappeared. "We need to respond," General Dong-hyun said during the emergency meeting of world leaders. "But how do we fight beings with technology so far beyond our own?" The aliens had sent a message to every government on Earth at the same time. The message was simple and terrifying. "We are the Galactic Confederation. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender and you will be allowed to live as our servants. Resist and you will be destroyed." Colonel Wu Jin volunteered to lead the first contact mission. He took a small team of soldiers to meet with the aliens who had landed outside Seoul. What he found changed everything. The alien base was protected by an energy shield that their weapons could not penetrate. Inside the shield, strange buildings had grown from the ground like plants. Alien soldiers in armor that seemed to be alive watched the humans with eyes that showed no fear, only contempt. Captain So-young met with Wu Jin at the edge of the shield. She was beautiful in an alien way, but her smile showed teeth like a shark. "You are the leader of this area?" she asked in perfect Korean. "I represent the government of South Korea," Wu Jin replied carefully. "South Korea," So-young repeated. "One of your many small tribes. We have studied your radio signals. You fight among yourselves constantly. This will make conquest simple." "We haven't agreed to be conquered," Wu Jin said. So-young laughed. "Agreed? Small human, you do not understand. We are not asking for your permission. We are informing you of what will happen. Your weapons cannot hurt us. Your technology is thousands of years behind ours. Accept your fate," but Wu Jin was not looking at her words. He was studying everything he could see. The alien soldiers, their weapons, their armor, their movements. He was a professional soldier, and soldiers learn by watching. That night he called General Dong-hyun with his report. "They're confident," he said. "Too confident." "They think we're helpless, aren't we?" the general asked. "Maybe, but they made one mistake. They're treating this like it's already over. They're not preparing for real resistance because they don't think we can give them any." Dr. Min-seo had been studying the alien technology from videos and from pieces that had fallen from their ships. What she found was both terrifying and hopeful. "Their weapons are incredibly advanced," she told the Emergency Science Council, "but they follow the same physical laws that we do. Energy has to come from somewhere. Matter can't be created or destroyed. They're not magic. Can we build weapons that can hurt them?" asked Dr. Junho, the head of the Weapons Development Program. "Not quickly," Min-seo said, "but maybe we don't need to build new weapons. Maybe we just need to use our old weapons in new ways." The first real battle happened 3 days after the aliens landed. Captain So-young had grown tired of waiting for humanity to surrender. She sent 50 of her soldiers to capture the South Korean government building in Seoul. The soldiers flew in small aircraft that moved silently through the air. They expected to find human soldiers with primitive weapons who would run away in fear. Instead, they found Colonel Wu Jin and 200 of his best fighters waiting for them. The battle lasted 6 hours. The humans used every trick they had learned in thousands of years of warfare. They fought from inside buildings where the aliens' energy weapons were less effective. They used explosives to bring down structures on top of their enemies. They coordinated their attacks using radios that the aliens couldn't understand or block. Most importantly, they refused to give up even when they were losing. Commander Jae-ho was So-young's tactical officer. He had fought in 17 campaigns across the galaxy. He had never seen anything like what the humans did that day. They keep fighting even when they're wounded, he reported to So-young, even when they're surrounded, even when they know they cannot win. By the end of the battle, 37 alien soldiers were dead. The humans had lost over 100 fighters, but they had proven something important. The aliens could be killed. So-young stood in the ruins of the government building, looking at the bodies of her soldiers. For the first time in her military career, she felt something she didn't recognize. Later, she would realize it was fear. Send a message to Admiral Taemin, she told Jae-ho. Tell him we need more soldiers. Many more soldiers. News of the battle spread around the world faster than the governments could control it. Humanity had drawn first blood. The aliens were not invincible. General Dong-hyun used the victory to unite Earth's military forces for the first time in history. Old enemies put aside their differences to face the new threat together. Dr. Min Seo worked day and night to understand the alien weapons that had been captured in the battle. What she learned gave humanity its first real hope. Their energy weapons are powerful, she explained to the military leaders. But they have weaknesses. They overheat if used too much. They don't work well in dust or smoke. And most importantly, they're designed to fight other aliens with energy shields. They're not designed to fight humans who hide and run and use the environment as a weapon. Colonel Wu Jin began training soldiers from around the world in new ways of fighting, ways that used humanity's advantages against the aliens' technology. We can't fight them ship to ship, he told his trainees. We can't match their weapons or their armor. But we can fight them human to human. And humans have been fighting wars since the beginning of time. Captain So-young sent report after report back to Admiral Taemin. Each report was worse than the last. Human resistance was growing stronger, not weaker. More aliens were dying in each battle. The easy conquest was becoming a real war. They fight like animals, she reported. But smart animals. They learn from each battle. They adapt faster than any species we've encountered. Admiral Taemin read the reports with growing anger. This was supposed to be a simple conquest of a primitive world. Instead, it was turning into the first real military challenge the Confederation had faced in centuries. Send more soldiers, he ordered. Send more ships. Whatever it takes, I want that world conquered. But in the back of his mind, a small voice was beginning to ask a dangerous question. What if they had made a mistake? What if these humans were not as weak as they appeared? On Earth, humanity was asking the same question about their alien invaders. And slowly, carefully, they were beginning to find the answer. The war was just beginning. High Chancellor Kyung-soo had ruled the Galactic Confederation for over a century. In all that time, no world had successfully resisted their conquest for more than a few months. Earth had been fighting back for 2 years. How is this possible? He demanded, reading Admiral Taemin's latest report. They are primitives. Their ships can barely leave their own planet. Taemin's image flickered on the communication screen. The Admiral looked older and more tired than when this campaign had begun. They adapt, Chancellor, Taemin said slowly. Every time we develop a new strategy, they find a way to counter it. Every weapon we use against them, they learn to use against us. They're like nothing we've ever fought before. On Earth, Dr. Yoon-ji Kim was working in a laboratory that had been built inside a mountain. Above ground, the war continued. But here, protected by miles of rock and metal, humanity's best scientists worked on the technology that would change everything. I think I understand how their portal works, she told Admiral Ji-hoon, who had once been an astronaut and was now the commander of Earth's first space fleet. Ji-hoon looked at the strange device they had captured during the Battle of Tokyo. It was smaller than the original portal on Kepler Tito, but it worked on the same principles. Can we build our own? He asked. Better than that, Yoon-ji said with a smile. I think we can build portable ones. Small enough to carry, but powerful enough to transport soldiers anywhere in the galaxy. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday morning. Yoon-ji successfully opened a portal from her laboratory to a location on the other side of the Earth. The portal was only large enough for one person, and it stayed open for just 10 seconds. But it worked. Within 6 months, Earth had built 100 portable portal generators. Within a year, they had built 1,000. Admiral Ji-hoon stood on the bridge of humanity's first real starship. It had been built using captured alien technology combined with human engineering. It was not as advanced as Confederation ships, but it had something the alien ships lacked. It had been built by people who were fighting for their survival. "Open the portal," Ji-hoon ordered. The space in front of his ship twisted and opened, showing the darkness of space around a distant alien world. This would be humanity's first attack on a Confederation planet, the beginning of their counterattack. "Remember," Ji-hoon said to his crew, "we're not here to conquer. We're here to send a message. The message is simple. Earth fights back." The human fleet struck at the alien mining world of Vorthak 7 without warning. The Confederation had grown comfortable with their superiority. Their outer worlds had minimal defenses because no one had ever attacked them before. The humans appeared through portals directly above the alien installations. They destroyed the mining equipment, freed the slave workers, and disappeared back through their portals before the Confederation Defense Fleet could respond. High Chancellor Kyung-soo felt something he had never experienced before when he read the report. The feeling was panic. "They can travel anywhere in our space," he said to his military advisors. "Nowhere is safe." War Master Daeho was the most feared military commander in the galaxy. He had conquered more worlds than any other living being. His fleets had destroyed entire civilizations. "Send me to deal with these humans," he told the Chancellor. "I will show them what real warfare looks like." "Take whatever forces you need," Kyung-soo said. "End this war." Daeho gathered the largest fleet in Confederation history. 5,000 warships, 1,000,000 soldiers, weapons that could crack planets open. He was certain that this would be the final battle. But when his fleet arrived at Earth, they found something unexpected. The humans were waiting for them. Admiral Ji-hoon had used the portal technology to place human forces throughout the solar system. Ships hid behind asteroids and moons. Soldiers waited in space stations that looked like pieces of space junk. "Welcome to our home system," Ji-hoon broadcast to the Confederation fleet. "Let us show you how humans fight when we're defending our families." The Battle of Earth lasted 3 days. The Confederation had superior numbers and better technology, but the humans fought like they had nothing to lose and everything to protect. Human ships appeared from behind planets, struck at the alien fleet, and vanished through portals before return fire could hit them. Human soldiers used boarding pods to get inside Confederation ships, where their portal generators let them call for reinforcements instantly. Most surprisingly, the humans used psychological warfare. They broadcast Earth's music, art, and poetry on all frequencies before each attack. They wanted the aliens to know they weren't fighting mere barbarians, but a civilization with culture and history and dreams. War Master Daeho found himself losing his first battle. His massive fleet was being destroyed by an enemy that refused to fight by the accepted rules of galactic warfare. "They don't fight like soldiers," he reported to High Chancellor Kyung-soo on the second day of battle. "They fight like parents defending their children. Every human in that system is willing to die to protect their world." By the end of the third day, Daeho had lost half his fleet. The other half was retreating in disorder. It was the first time in Confederation history that their military had been defeated by a supposedly primitive species. "This is War Master Daeho to High Chancellor Kyung-soo," came his final transmission. "I request immediate reinforcement. The humans, they don't fight like any species we've encountered. They fight like they have nothing to lose and everything to prove. Send every ship we have. Send every soldier. This isn't a conquest anymore. This is a war for survival." But it was too late for reinforcements to help. Admiral Ji-hoon's counterattack had already begun. Human forces appeared on a dozen Confederation worlds at the same time. They didn't try to hold territory. Instead, they hit critical targets and vanished, leaving chaos behind them. They destroyed supply lines, freed slave populations, and spread a message that no one in the galaxy had ever heard before. Resistance was possible. Some alien species that had been conquered by the Confederation began to rise up against their masters. They had seen that the mighty Confederation could be defeated. If humans could fight back successfully, maybe they could too. Prophet Commander Boram had been a Kalari warrior serving the Confederation. But after fighting against humans for a year, she began to understand something that changed her life. The humans weren't fighting for conquest or glory. They were fighting for the right to be free. "I want to join them," she told her second-in-command secretly. "That's treason," he replied. "Yes," Boram said, "but it's the right kind of treason. When her ship was captured by human forces during the Battle of Europa, Boram surrendered herself to Admiral Ji-hoon personally. Why? Ji-hoon asked her. Because in all my years fighting for the Confederation, Boram said, I never once saw us fight for anything good. We fought for resources, for territory, for power. But you humans fight for each other. You fight for freedom. That's something worth joining. High Chancellor Kyung-soo read the reports with growing horror. The war was spreading beyond Earth. Other species were beginning to rebel. The Confederation's carefully maintained order was falling apart. We have to destroy them completely, he told his advisors. Not just defeat them. Wipe them out entirely. Make an example that will terrify any other species that might think of resisting us. How? Asked his military commander. They can appear anywhere. They strike without warning and vanish before we can respond. Our traditional advantages mean nothing against their tactics. Kyung-soo's answer was simple and terrible. Then we'll use weapons that can't miss. Planet killers. We'll destroy every world they've touched, every species that's helped them. We'll burn half the galaxy if we have to. But Admiral Ji-hoon had been expecting this decision. Human intelligence networks, helped by alien defectors like Prophet Commander Boram, had learned of the Confederation's plan. They want to destroy planets? Ji-hoon asked Dr. Yoonji. Then we'll make sure they can't. How many portal generators do we have ready? Thousands, Yoonji replied, and why? Because we're going to take this war directly to their capital world, Ji-hoon said. If they want to use planet killer weapons, they'll have to use them on their own home. The final phase of the war was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Fleet Admiral Sang-ho looked out at the stars from his command ship. 5 years had passed since the first alien ships had appeared over Earth. 5 years of war that had spread across half the galaxy. He was no longer fighting just for Earth's survival. Now he was fighting to free billions of beings from Confederation slavery. The war had become something bigger than anyone had imagined. Admiral, called his communications officer, we're receiving signals from the Zephyrian system. Emperor Haewon is asking for a meeting, Sang-ho nodded. The Zephyrians were the last major power still loyal to the Confederation. Their emperor controlled over 100 worlds and commanded fleets almost as large as Earth's. Tell him I'll meet with him, Sang-ho said, but it will be on neutral ground, and we'll both come with equal forces. Dr. Young-hee was working in her laboratory aboard the human flagship. The war had changed her from a peaceful scientist into someone who created weapons and enhanced soldiers. She didn't like what she had become, but she understood that it was necessary. The bioenhancement process is ready for the next phase, she told Admiral Sang-ho. We can now create soldiers who can survive in any environment in the galaxy. They'll be stronger, faster, and smarter than baseline humans. And the cost? Sang-ho asked. Some of them won't survive the process, and those who do will be changed forever. They won't quite be human anymore. Sang-ho was quiet for a long moment. How many volunteers do we have? 10,000, Young-hee said. All of them know the risks. They want to do this to protect the people they love. The meeting with Emperor Haewon took place on an empty world halfway between human and Zephyrian space. Both leaders brought small personal fleets, but the weapons were kept powered down as a sign of good faith. Haewon was ancient, even by Zephyrian standards. His people were tall and thin, with silver skin that seemed to glow in the light. They had been part of the Confederation for over 1,000 years. You have destroyed everything, Haewon said when he met with Sang-ho. The old order, the old peace, the old ways. Do you understand what you have done? We freed ourselves, Sang-ho replied. And we're freeing others. Freedom, Haewon said the word like it tasted bad. Do you know what freedom has brought to the galaxy? War chaos, billions of dead. The Confederation brought peace. The peace of slavery, Sang-ho said. The peace of the grave. That's not peace, that's surrender. They talked for hours, but they could not reach an agreement. Haewon believed that order and stability were more important than freedom. Sang-ho believed that freedom was worth any price. Then we will fight, Haewon said finally. And when this war is over, the survivors will remember that you could have chosen peace. We did choose peace, Sang-ho replied. We chose the peace that comes after victory. Prophet Commander Boram had become one of humanity's most trusted allies. Her knowledge of Confederation tactics and technology had helped win dozens of battles. But more than that, she had become a symbol to other aliens that resistance was possible. The liberation of the slave worlds is ready to begin, she told Admiral Sang-ho. "We have contact with underground resistance groups on 47 planets. When we attack the main Confederation supply lines, they'll rise up at the same time." The liberation of the slave worlds was the largest military operation in galactic history. Human forces, enhanced soldiers, and alien rebels struck at over 100 Confederation worlds simultaneously. The battles were brutal. The Confederation had ruled some of these worlds for so long that many of the slaves had forgotten what freedom looked like. They had to be convinced to fight for something they had never experienced. But Prophet Commander Boram and her alien volunteers knew how to speak to their own people. They didn't talk about human ideas of freedom. They talked about the basic right of every thinking being to choose their own path. Dr. Young Hee's enhanced soldiers proved their worth during the liberation battles. They could fight in the toxic atmospheres of chemical worlds, survive in the freezing cold of ice planets, and operate in the crushing gravity of heavy worlds. Where normal humans could not go, the enhanced soldiers carried the fight. But the cost was terrible. Of the 10,000 volunteers who had undergone enhancement, only 6,000 survived the process. And those who lived were changed in ways that sometimes frightened even themselves. Sergeant Minho had been one of the first to volunteer for enhancement. Now he could lift a half-ton weight with one hand and see clearly in complete darkness, but he could no longer touch another person without being careful not to hurt them accidentally. Was it worth it? Admiral Sang-ho asked him after a particularly difficult battle. "Yes," Minho said without hesitation. "Because the children we saved today will grow up free. That's worth any price." High Chancellor Kyung-soo watched his empire crumble from his palace on the Confederation capital world. Report after report brought news of more defeats, more rebellions, more worlds lost to the human-led alliance. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked his military advisor. "Perhaps 1,000, Chancellor. Maybe fewer. Many of our commanders have gone over to the humans. Others have simply disappeared with their fleets." Kyung-soo felt old and tired. The Confederation had ruled the galaxy for so long that he had forgotten it was possible for things to change. "Prepare the capital defenses," he ordered. "They'll come for us eventually. When they do, we'll make them pay for every meter of ground." Admiral Taemin, who had first discovered Earth, was now a prisoner aboard a human ship. He spent his days thinking about the choices that had led to this moment. What if he had tried to communicate with the humans instead of attacking them? What if he had recognized their strength instead of dismissing them as primitives? "Do you regret it?" asked Dr. Minseo, who sometimes came to talk with him. She was trying to understand how the war had started, hoping to prevent future conflicts. "Every day," Taemin said, "we thought we were so superior, so advanced. But we had forgotten the most important lesson in the galaxy. Never underestimate someone who has something to protect." The final push toward the Confederation capital began in the 5th year of the war. Fleet Admiral Sang-ho assembled the largest human fleet ever created. Alongside them came ships from dozens of alien species that had joined the fight for freedom. The battle for the capital system lasted 2 weeks. The Confederation fought with desperate courage, knowing that defeat would mean the end of their 1,000-year empire. But they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered by enemies who had learned to fight in ways they could not understand or counter. Prophet Commander Boram led the attack on the main orbital defense station. Her mixed force of humans and alien rebels fought through corridors filled with automated weapons and energy barriers. When they reached the control center, they found something unexpected. The Confederation defenders had shut down their weapons and removed their armor. They were surrendering. "Why?" Boram asked their commander. "Because we've seen what you do to the worlds you liberate," the alien officer said. "You don't enslave them. You don't destroy them. You actually set them free. Maybe it's time for us to be free too." As the Confederation capital fell, Admiral Sang-ho stood on his command bridge and watched the end of an empire, but he felt no joy in victory. The cost had been too high. Too many beings had died on both sides. "What happens now?" asked his second-in-command. "Now we rebuild," Sang-ho said. "We create something better than what came before, and we try to make sure that no one ever has to fight a war like this again." But even as he spoke those words, Sang-ho knew that the hardest part was still ahead. Winning a war was difficult. Building a lasting peace would be even harder. The galaxy was free, but freedom brought its own challenges. And humanity would have to learn that being liberators was only the beginning of their responsibilities. President In-ho stood in the ruins of the Confederation Capitol building. The war was over, but the work of peace was just beginning. Around him, representatives from hundreds of worlds waited to hear what would come next. He had been elected by the people of Earth to lead the new galactic government. But leading billions of beings across thousands of worlds was different from leading a single planet. Every decision he made would affect the lives of countless beings he would never meet. "The Confederation is dead," he announced to the gathering. "But we are not here to build another empire. We are here to build something that has never existed before, a galaxy where every world chooses its own path." Chancellor Ye-jin had served the old Confederation for 50 years. She had watched it grow strong and then collapse in the space of a decade. Now she worked for the humans, helping to create the new order that would replace the old. "It won't be easy," she told President In-ho privately. "Some species have been slaves for so long they don't know how to be free. Others have been rulers for so long they can't imagine being equals. And there are worlds that want revenge against their former masters." In-ho nodded. He had expected these problems. "What do you recommend?" "Time," Ye-jin said. "And patience. And most importantly, you must prove that humans really are different from the Confederation, that you won't become the new masters of the galaxy." The trials of the former Confederation leaders began 6 months after the war ended. The most important trial was that of Admiral Taemin, the being who had first discovered Earth and started the chain of events that led to Galactic War. Director Si-hoon of the Galactic Reconstruction Authority presided over the trial. He had been chosen because he was known for being fair and just. The galaxy needed to see that the new order would be based on law, not revenge. "Admiral Taemin," Si-hoon said, "you are charged with crimes against sapient beings, illegal conquest, and genocide. How do you plead?" Taemin stood straight despite his age and the chains on his wrists. "Guilty," he said simply. "I am guilty of all charges." The courtroom was silent. Many had expected him to deny his crimes or blame others, but Taemin had spent years in prison thinking about what he had done. "I believed we were bringing order to the galaxy," he said. "I believed that strength gave us the right to rule over the weak. I was wrong. The humans taught me that strength should be used to protect, not to conquer." Dr. Min-seo had been asked to speak at the trial about the early days of the war. She stood before the court and told the story of how Earth had first encountered the Confederation. "We were afraid," she said. "We didn't understand what was happening or why. All we knew was that beings from another world had come to our home and told us we were now their slaves. So we did what humans have always done when faced with impossible odds. We fought back." The trial lasted for weeks. Witnesses from dozens of worlds told their stories. Former slaves described the conditions they had lived under. Former soldiers explained the orders they had been given. Slowly, the full scope of Confederation crimes became clear. When it came time for Admiral Taemin's final statement, he spoke not to the court, but to the cameras that were broadcasting the trial across the galaxy. "To every being watching this," he said, "I want you to understand something. We didn't conquer you because you were evil, or because you deserved it. We conquered you because we could, because we were strong and you were not. That is the only reason." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "The humans could have done the same thing to us. They were stronger in the end. They won the war, but they chose to give you trials instead of executions. They chose to give you freedom instead of slavery. Learn from their example. Learn from my mistakes." The court found Taemin guilty and sentenced him to life in prison, but even his enemies had to admit that his final words had been those of a being who truly understood his crimes. President In-ho faced his greatest challenge when the Andromedan worlds declared independence from the new galactic government. They had been part of the Confederation but had never been fully conquered. Now they wanted to form their own empire. "Let them go," advised Admiral Sang-ho, who had become In-ho's military advisor. "We fought for the right of worlds to choose their own path. If they choose to leave, that's their right." "But they're talking about conquering their neighbors," In-ho said. "They want to become the new Confederation." "Then we'll stop them if they try," Sang-ho replied. "But we won't force them to stay with us. The moment we do that, we become what we fought against." Chancellor Ye-jin worked tirelessly to help former Confederation worlds adapt to freedom. She traveled from planet to planet, teaching new governments how to function without masters telling them what to do. On some worlds, the transition was smooth. Species that had maintained their cultures during centuries of slavery quickly rebuilt their independence, but other worlds struggled. Some fell into civil wars. Others begged to be ruled again because freedom seemed too difficult. "This is the price of liberation," Ye Jin told President Inho during one of their regular meetings. "Some will succeed. Some will fail. Some will choose to give up their freedom. All we can do is make sure the choice is theirs to make." The new Terran Federation established its capital on a neutral world, halfway between Earth and the former Confederation Center. Representatives from every member world gathered there to write the laws that would govern the galaxy. The debates were long and sometimes heated. Species that had been enemies for centuries had to learn to work together. Different worlds had different ideas about justice, freedom, and responsibility. Dr. Young Hee, now the Federation's chief scientist, worked on projects to help heal the damage caused by the war. Her enhanced soldiers had survived the fighting, but many struggled to find their place in the peace. They were no longer quite human, but they weren't alien either. "We created you for war," she told them during one of their regular meetings, "but now we need to find out what you can become in peace." Sergeant Min Ho, still one of the enhanced soldiers, had found his calling as a teacher. He trained security forces on dangerous worlds where normal humans couldn't survive. "I'm not human anymore," he told Young Hee, "but I'm not sorry about that. The children I protect will grow up free because of what we sacrificed. That makes everything worth it." 3 years after the war's end, Chancellor Ye Jin gave a speech that would be remembered throughout galactic history. She stood before the Federation Assembly and spoke about what they had all learned. "Someone asked me recently if I regretted opening the portal to Earth," she said. "If I regretted starting the chain of events that led to so much death and destruction." She paused, looking at the representatives from hundreds of worlds. "My answer is no. I don't regret it. Because yes, we opened the portal to Earth. Yes, the galaxy is still counting the dead from the war that followed. But from those ashes, something new has grown. A galaxy where strength comes not from the ability to oppress others, but from the courage to stand against oppression. A galaxy where freedom is not a gift given by the powerful to the weak, but a right claimed by all thinking beings." The humans taught us that, not through their words, but through their actions. They showed us that it's better to fight and lose for freedom than to live comfortably in chains. President Inho listened to her speech from his office on the Federation capital world. Through his window, he could see ships from dozens of different worlds coming and going. Trade ships, exploration vessels, passenger liners carrying beings who were free to travel wherever they chose. The galaxy was not perfect. Some worlds still struggled with freedom. Some species still harbored hatred from the old days. Pirates and warlords tried to fill the power vacuum left by the Confederation's fall. But it was better than before. Billions of beings who had been slaves were now free. Children grew up learning that they could choose their own futures. Artists, scientists, and philosophers from different worlds shared their knowledge and ideas. Admiral Sang Ho, now an old man, spent his final years writing the history of the war. He wanted future generations to understand not just what had happened, but why it had happened. "We didn't fight because we were the strongest," he wrote. "We fought because we had something to protect." In the end, that made all the difference. The memorial systems established to honor the dead became places of pilgrimage for beings from across the galaxy. Human and alien names were carved together in stone and metal, remembering all who had died for freedom. On Earth, Colonel Wu Jin had become an old man. He often stood in the cemetery where his soldiers were buried and thought about the price of victory. So many good people had died. So many families had been destroyed. But when he looked at the children playing in the parks, when he saw the alien visitors who came to Earth as friends instead of conquerors, he knew that the price had been worth paying. The galaxy was free. Not perfect, not peaceful, but free. And sometimes freedom was enough. Admiral Taman stood on the bridge of his massive ship, looking at the dead world below. Kepler 442b had been lifeless for millions of years, but the ancient ruins on its surface told a different story. The Forerunners had been here once, long before any of the current galaxy species had learned to fly between stars. "Sir, we found something," called Dr. Hyunwoo from his science station. The young scientist had been working on the Forerunner technology for months. His hand shook as he touched the strange metal devices they had pulled from the ruins. Taemin walked over to look at the readings. The Galactic Confederation had ruled 12 star systems for over 2,000 years. They had conquered hundreds of worlds and enslaved dozens of species. But Forerunner technology was still a mystery to them. "What is it, Doctor?" Taman asked. "I think it's a portal, sir. A gateway that can connect two places across the galaxy instantly." Yunwu's eyes were wide with excitement. "The energy readings are unlike anything we've seen before." Captain So-Young looked up from her tactical display. She was a Kalari, with blue-green skin and sharp teeth that showed when she smiled. The Kalari were known throughout the galaxy as excellent warriors and loyal soldiers of the Confederation. "A portal?" So-Young asked. "To where?" "That's what we need to find out," Taman said. He was old even for his long-lived species. He had seen the Confederation grow from a small alliance into the most powerful force in the galaxy. "Can you activate it, Doctor?" Yunwu nodded nervously. "I think so, sir. But we don't know what's on the other side. It could be dangerous," Taman laughed. The sound was cold and harsh. "Doctor, we are the Confederation. We have plasma cannons that can destroy planets. We have shields that can stop any weapon. What could possibly be dangerous to us?" For the next 3 days, Hyunwoo worked on the portal device. The ancient machine was larger than a building and covered in strange symbols that glowed with soft blue light. Slowly, piece by piece, he began to understand how it worked. On the morning of the 4th day, the portal came to life. The air in the center of the device began to shimmer and twist. A hole opened in space itself, showing a view of another world far away. "By the stars," whispered So-Young. Through the portal, they could see a blue and green planet. White clouds moved across its surface. It looked beautiful and peaceful. "Send through a probe," Taimin ordered. The small robot flew through the portal and began scanning the new world. The data it sent back made everyone on the bridge lean forward to look at their screens. "The planet has oxygen in its air," Hyunwoo reported. "There are large bodies of water, plants and animals everywhere. And, sir, there are intelligent beings living there." "Show me," Taimin said. The probe's cameras showed cities with tall buildings. Strange vehicles moved on roads between them. In the sky, primitive aircraft left white trails behind them. The beings who built all this looked almost like the humanoid species in the galaxy. But they were smaller and had no natural weapons like claws or sharp teeth. "They're using chemical rockets to reach space," So-Young said, looking at the readings. "And their weapons are still based on throwing small metal pieces very fast." "This is a Class 7 primitive world, sir," Taman smiled. Class 7 meant the beings were intelligent but had very weak technology. Perfect for conquest and resource extraction. The Confederation had taken over dozens of worlds like this one. "What do they call themselves?" he asked. "According to their radio signals, they call themselves humans," Hyunwoo said. "And they call their world Earth. Humans." Taman repeated the word slowly. "How many of them are there?" "About 8 billion, sir. They're spread across all the land areas of their planet. They seem to be divided into many different groups that sometimes fight each other." So-Young's sharp teeth showed in a hunting smile. "They fight among themselves? That makes conquest even easier. We can use their own conflicts against them." Taman walked to the center of the bridge, his hands behind his back. He had conquered 17 worlds during his long career. This would be number 18. "Prepare a landing force," he ordered. 300 soldiers should be enough for the first wave. We'll establish a base and begin studying their defenses. Once we understand how they fight, we can plan the full invasion." "Sir," Hyunwoo said quietly, "shouldn't we try to communicate with them first? The Confederation's laws say we should offer them a chance to surrender peacefully." Taman looked at the young scientist with cold eyes. "Doctor, the Confederation's laws exist to make us feel better about what we do. But the truth is simple. We are strong, and they are weak. We need their world's resources, and they are in our way. Why waste time with words when the outcome is already decided?" So-Young stood up from her station. "I'll lead the first landing party personally, sir. My soldiers are ready." "Good," Taman said. "Take your best fighters. Establish a base near one of their larger cities. Capture some of these humans for study. Learn about their technology and their ways of fighting. But remember, Captain, we want them to fear us. Fear makes conquest easier." The portal remained open as So-Young's ships prepared to cross through. The Confederation had done this many times before. First, they would study the new species. Then they would break their ability to resist. Finally, they would either enslave them or wipe them out completely, depending on how useful they proved to be. Taiman watched the preparations with satisfaction. Earth looked like it would be rich in the metals and other resources the Confederation needed. The humans appeared to be weak and divided. It should be a quick and easy conquest. Sir, the communications officer called out. We're receiving a signal from Earth. It seems to be some kind of entertainment broadcast. Put it on the screen, Taemin said. The bridge filled with strange sounds. Music, the humans called it, and images of their cities, their people, their world. Taemin saw humans laughing, playing, building things. They looked so peaceful and harmless. They seem happy, Hyunwoo said softly. They won't be for much longer, So Young replied. She was checking her weapons one final time. Happiness is a luxury that weak species can't afford when they meet the strong. Taemin nodded in agreement. He had seen it happen before. Peaceful worlds that thought they were safe in their isolation. They always fell the same way. First came shock and fear. Then came desperate resistance. Finally came acceptance of their new place in the galaxy as servants of the Confederation. As So Young's ships moved toward the portal, Taemin felt proud of what they were about to accomplish. The Confederation would grow stronger. Their empire would gain another world, and these humans would learn their proper place in the order of the galaxy. He had no way of knowing that Earth had been preparing for this moment for longer than anyone could imagine, that these peaceful-looking humans had been fighting wars among themselves for thousands of years, that they had learned to kill with an efficiency that would terrify any species in the galaxy. The portal remained open, waiting. And through it, Captain So Young led her soldiers toward what they thought would be an easy victory. They were wrong.